Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed your brief coffee break. And it's time for us to move on to our final session for the day, titled RSPO Jurisdictional Transformation. And on stage right now, we have our speakers, Bapak Yul Haidir, Head of Serian District, Central Kalimantan, Indonesia. Mr. Frederick Kugan, Deputy Chief Conservator of Forests, Planning and Management, Sabah Forestry Department, Malaysia. Ms. Maria Amparo Alban, Executive Director and CEO, ACD Consulting. Dr. Glenn Davis, Senior Advisor, WWF and Co-Chair of RSPO Jurisdictional Working Group. Last but not least, our moderator, Professor Simon Tay, Chairman, Singapore Institute of International Affairs. Professor Tay, the session is now yours.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you very much. Let me begin by thanking Daryl and the RSPO for inviting me to moderate this session. The Singapore Institute of International Affairs is an independent think tank in Singapore and hosts the Sustainable World Resources Dialogue each year. We've had the pleasure of hosting Daryl and several of you here in Singapore before, and my team has often been at the RSPO. I myself spoke at the RSPO way back, I think the second or third roundtable, and it's a pleasure to be back. The session we have, I think, will be very exciting. While many problems are perennial, recurring, I think the approaches that we take to them are something where there can be innovation. And if you've been following the issue of palm oil and the resource sector in our region, you realize that there is a lot of scope for new approaches. And in particular, this afternoon, we'll be discussing the jurisdictional approach and what promises to be an effort to really transform the way things are done, not just stated, but really implemented and done at the ground level. And if I may add, one of the biggest challenges that faces this sector is to provide certainty and certification that reaches down to the smallholders. And I think this is where this effort by RSPO has to be commended as the right target to try for. But how do we achieve that target? And that's where I'm doubly happy that we do not have on the panel professors like me, people interested in policy only. We will, thanks to RSPO, instead have three views that take the jurisdictional approach at different levels. The first speaker, as the MC has announced, is a Bupati from Surayan, Kalimantan Tengah, Pak Yul Hadi. And we will really hear at the district level how they approach it. The second speaker, Mr. Fred Kugan, will talk about a state level. And of course, this is the pretty big state of Sabah, East Malaysia. And if that's not enough, we'll have a third view from Dr. Mrs. Maria Amparo Alban, an old friend from Ecuador, talk about a country-level approach to the jurisdiction. And last but not least, we'll have comments from Glenn Davis, who has been, as co-chair of the RSPO working group in this area, one of the drivers of how to formulate this new approach. So with great anticipation that we in Singapore and others, I mean, look for purchasing, sourcing, financing, trading, that has the verification and implementation that the jurisdictional approach promises. So please allow me to start with the Bupati. Pak Bupati, yang pertama, will you please go first?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Yang saya hormati Chief Executive Officer RSPO, perwakilan RSPO dari Asia, Afrika, Eropa, dan Amerika, Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu, hadirin sekalian yang berbahagia. Marilah segala puji dan syukur kita panjatkan kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa taala, karena hanya atas karunia-Nya kita semua dapat hadir dalam pertemuan pada hari ini. Saya pribadi merasa senang memperoleh kesempatan berbagi cerita mengenai penerapan sertifikasi yurisdiksi yang akan membawa Kabupaten Surian bertransisi ke arah pengelolaan kelapa sawit berkelanjutan. Sebelumnya saya ingin memperkenalkan sedikit Kabupaten Surian yang dapat saya rincikan sesuai tema pembicaraan kita pada hari ini. Kabupaten Surian dikelilingi oleh Kabupaten Kota Waringin Barat, Lamandau, Kota Waringin Timur, dan Katingan. Di Kalimantan Tengah, di utara berbatasan dengan Provinsi Kalimantan Barat, dan di selatan adalah Laut Jawa. Dengan jumlah penduduk yang tercatat pada tahun 2017 adalah sebanyak lebih dari 180.000 jiwa. Wilayah Kabupaten Surian mempunyai luas 15.211 km persegi, di mana di sebelah utara terdapat lahan berbukit dengan tutupan hutan yang masih luas, dan di sebelah selatan didominasi rawa gambut. Sedangkan di bagian tengah sebagian besar dialokasikan sebagai perkebunan kelapa sawit. Bapak Ibu hadirin yang berbahagia, sejak tahun 2015 Kabupaten Surian telah menyatakan komitmennya untuk menjadi salah satu kabupaten percontohan yang mendukung kelapa sawit berkelanjutan melalui sistem sertifikasi yurisdiksi yang digagas oleh Rentable on Sustainable Palm Oil (RCPO). Kami berkomitmen untuk memastikan seluruh produksi kelapa sawit dari Kabupaten Surian diproduksi secara berkelanjutan. Kami percaya bahwa kelapa sawit yang berkelanjutan merupakan tuntutan pasar yang harus dipenuhi. Apabila petani kami tidak dapat menjawab permintaan pasar tersebut, lambat laun akan tersingkirkan dari rantai pasok. Tentunya kami tidak ingin itu terjadi, sehingga pendekatan yurisdiksi ini merupakan salah satu jawabannya. Sejak pernyataan komitmen tersebut, selanjutnya pada tahun 2016, Surian telah membentuk kelompok kerja sertifikasi yurisdiksi yang beranggotakan semua produsen kelapa sawit, perwakilan pemerintah, petani, dan lembaga swadaya masyarakat (NGO). Pada tahun 2017, menyelesaikan analisa daya dukung dan daya tampung lingkungan hidup yang sebagai upaya menyiapkan rencana pengelolaan lingkungan hidup di level kabupaten, sehingga ekosistem alam di Surian tetap menghasilkan jasa lingkungan yang diperlukan oleh masyarakat banyak, seperti penyediaan air, pangan, dan pencegahan terhadap bencana serta pendukung habitat satwa liar lainnya. Pada tahun 2018 sampai tahun 2019, Surian telah membentuk fasilitas pertanian yang akan menyediakan pelayanan bagi seluruh petani yang ada di Surian. Surian telah menyusun SOP registrasi konflik di tingkat desa, sehingga setiap kejadian konflik dapat ditangani dengan baik. Kami pun memastikan tidak ada lagi izin baru yang kami terbitkan sejak tahun 2018 hingga saat ini dan selanjutnya. Apalagi saat ini pemerintah pusat telah mengeluarkan moratorium penghentian izin untuk perkebunan kelapa sawit yang baru. Sejak dikeluarkan rancangan prinsip dan kriteria sertifikasi yurisdiksi, proses diskusi multi pihak ini kembali diulang dengan melibatkan semua pihak untuk menggali masukan mengenai pembentukan entitas yurisdiksi. Entitas ini yang nantinya akan mendaftarkan Surian untuk mendapatkan sertifikasi yurisdiksi dan mengawal proses sampai dengan memperoleh sertifikasi tersebut. Sebagai upaya membentuk entitas yurisdiksi, Seruyan akan membentuk sekretariat sertifikasi yurisdiksi yang dipimpin langsung oleh Kepala Badan Perencanaan Pembangunan Daerah. Sekretariat ini bersama-sama dengan semua pihak akan memformulasikan struktur tata kelola entitas yurisdiksi dan menyiapkan peta jalan bagi proses sertifikasi yang berfokus kepada 3 isu. Isu awal yakni isu sosial, lingkungan hidup, dan memastikan produsen kelapa sawit termasuk petani swadaya telah menerapkan prinsip dan kriteria RCPO yang selanjutnya akan kami jelaskan berikut ini. Terkait dengan isu global, isu sosial, dokumen sertifikasi yurisdiksi RSPO menyatakan yurisdiksi harus mengembangkan aturan mengenai aplikasi prinsip pediatapa dan rencana pengakuan hak atas tanah. Sebagaimana disampaikan sebelumnya, beberapa standar operating prosedur terkait registrasi konflik dan aplikasi prinsip pediatapa telah diselesaikan dan sedang berada di tahapan finalisasi draft peraturan yang akan mengesahkan SOP-SOP tersebut. Sebagai bentuk implementasi dari SOP-SOP tersebut, Seruyan akan mengembangkan sistem pemantauan berbasis web dan mendorong mediasi konflik tanah pada level yurisdiksi. Terkait dengan isu lingkungan hidup, beberapa hal yang diminta oleh RSPO secara bertahap antara lain terkait dengan tata ruang, kajian lingkungan hidup strategis, pemerataan area bernilai konservasi tinggi atau bahasa Inggrisnya HCP, dan bernilai stok karbon tinggi atau HCS. Terkait dengan upaya pelindungan daerah yang telah bernilai konservasi tinggi, Kabupaten Seruyan telah memiliki peraturan Bupati nomor 65 tahun 2015 yang memberi jaminan pelindungan HCP ini di luar kawasan hutan. Secara makro, Seruyan telah menyelesaikan analisa daya dukung dan daya tampung lingkungan hidup yang dimaksud, memastikan ekosistem yang alam di Seruyan tetap menghasilkan jasa lingkungan yang diperlukan oleh masyarakat banyak, seperti penyediaan air, pangan, dan pencegahan terhadap bencana serta pendukung habitat satwa liar lainnya. Seruyan merupakan satu-satunya kabupaten yang telah menyelesaikan analisa tersebut dan hasil daya dukung dan daya tampung lingkungan hidup tersebut telah diintegrasikan ke dalam rencana pembangunan jangka menengah daerah dan rencana tata ruang wilayah Kabupaten Seruyan. Semua upaya ini selanjutnya akan diimplementasikan di lapangan dengan menyusun rencana kerja pengelolaan daerah HCP dan HCS, baik berupa pelindungan kawasan maupun restorasi area yang telah terdegradasi. Rencana kerja ini yang akan disusun bersama dengan banyak pihak, termasuk perusahaan perkebunan. Selanjutnya, setidaknya 352 petani saat ini dengan total lahan 619 hektar telah mendapatkan sertifikasi dari SPO, dan ini akan direplikasikan mencakup seluruh petani dan swadaya yang ada di Seruyan. Kami juga memantau kinerja perusahaan perkebunan besar menggunakan sistem sip kebun, baik dari sisi ketaatan terhadap peraturan perundang-undangan, tata ruang, dan pada akhirnya terhadap prinsip kriteria SEPO. Bapak dan Ibu hadirin sekalian yang berbahagia, pengalaman selama beberapa tahun menyiapkan Seruyan menuju sertifikasi yurisdiksi dapat saya rangkum menjadi 3 poin. Pertama, keterlibatan semua pihak adalah keharusan, karena perjalanan menuju sertifikasi yurisdiksi ini tidak mudah dan tidak murah. Saya mengundang semua pihak yang memiliki sumber daya keuangan dan kemampuan teknis untuk bekerja bersama Kabupaten Seruyan untuk mewujudkan transisi ke arah keberlanjutan. Selanjutnya, yang kedua, proses yang panjang dan tidak murah ini memerlukan pengakuan akan kemajuan dan insentif dari waktu ke waktu, walaupun tujuan akhir belum secara penuh tercapai. Akhirnya, jaminan dari pihak pembeli bahwa kredit dari sertifikasi yurisdiksi akan dibeli seluruhnya oleh pembeli dengan harga yang saling menguntungkan. Kepastian pasar ini merupakan faktor penting yang akan mendorong setiap produsen secara serius merubah sistem produksi menjadi berkelanjutan. Perlu juga saya informasikan, dengan adanya turunnya harga CPO dunia mengakibatkan harga TBS di tingkat petani pun turun. Daya beli masyarakat pun juga turun. Ini sangat berdampak cukup signifikan terhadap ekonomi dan daya beli masyarakat di daerah perkebunan. Apalagi dengan kehadiran perusahaan besar kelapa sawit di Seruyan, banyak mempekerjakan tenaga lokal, sedikit banyaknya dengan kehadiran investasi tersebut, kesejahteraan masyarakat akan meningkat. Dan perlu juga kami informasikan bahwa seluruh perkebunan yang ada di Seruyan itu memiliki HCP dengan luasan 10% dari lahannya, minimal bisa lebih. Akhir kata, izinkan saya mengulangi bahwa perjalanan menuju keberlanjutan ini tidak mudah dan tidak murah, namun ketika dikerjakan bersama-sama sesuai dengan tugas dan tanggung jawabnya masing-masing, saya percaya kita dapat mencapai harapan kita bersama. Terima kasih atas perhatiannya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak Bupati. Thank you for that summary of the efforts made. The journey was not easy, and as he said, it's not complete. He hopes that there will be strong market signals, like a sort of a positive chain. And I may next turn to Mr. Fred Coogan from Sabah. Fred, would you like to share your experience at the state level in Sabah? Up to you, Fred. If you hear, it's fine. Unless.
Thank you, Prof, for the very kind introduction. I think I prefer standing up rather than sitting because of the lights. It's a bit. Okay, a very good afternoon to all. Thank you very much for giving Sabah the opportunity to be heard in this very important meeting. And as the title in front of you, I'll be presenting what are the status of the jurisdictional initiative in Sabah. So what is happening in Sabah? Over the last 2 days when I was here, I've been loitering around along the lobby, and I've heard a lot of stories. Stories about JE, about jurisdictional Sabah in Sabah, and what's happening. And there's a lot. I think it's important that maybe here that I would like to clarify as much as possible. What are the status right now, and what are the issues and challenges? Definitely, it is not easy, as Prof. Stephen has mentioned. Simon, sorry. And as you are aware, I've presented the same in the last RT in Kota Kinabalu. Okay? And just to recap, for those who are new to the jurisdictional initiative of Sabah, is that we have about 1.6 million hectares of oil palm fully established. And on top of that, in addition to that, we do still have about 60% of it under forested, under forest cover. And why we enter into jurisdictional approach, I think there's a lot of factors that I presented earlier. I think this all boils down to having better market access. And of course, one of the very important aspects is to have a cost-effective certification, looking at the state as a whole. And last but not least is to address competitive for Sabah. And I think having jurisdictional approach is very important, because most of the issues that have been identified is something that has to be addressed at the state level, because land, forest, is, or even regarding smallholders, is all state matters. And just to briefly recap the objective, basically the jurisdictional initiative in Sabah is to transform Sabah palm oil. And I think this is, it is also with the objective is to halt deforestation, restoring ecosystem and securing livelihood. And with that, we have identified what are the goals, immediate goals within the within the first 5 years, and the first annual work plan, which is to achieve no loss of high conservation value forests, or high CS, HCS, high carbon stock, and then free prior informed consent, which is to ensure that there is no conflict, is a conflict-free, and of course, the need to strengthen smallholders' sustainability and uplift the livelihood. And where are we now in terms of the jurisdictional approach? Since its implementation in 2015, inception 2015, there's a lot of activities that have been implemented. And as of today, we have further reaffirmation of commitment from the current state government after the state election. I think this is very important to highlight that. And this was recently reaffirmed by the state cabinet. And the way that we organize ourselves here is that the jurisdictional certification or approach is to be implemented concurrently with the Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil, MSPO. So one MSPO has been made mandatory since has been mandatory until end of this. That has to be achieved by end of this year, whereas the jurisdictional is still voluntary and to be achieved by the year 2025. And over the last reporting, or 1 year that they have implemented the jurisdictional approach, I think there are quite a number of important documents that have been produced. One is that we have come up with the first 5-year plan. We have come up with the first 1-year action plan. We have also produced with some small holders readiness report, FPIC guide and FLAP, which is facilitated land application process, of which I'm going to expand a bit further. And I think one of the important aspects with regard to jurisdictional approach initiative in Sabah is that the need to establish a permanent secretariat. And as of now, Forestry Department, and myself here, have been functioning as the interim secretariat in order to put the initiative going. And I think it is very important. It is a very important, crucial aspect of that jurisdictional. And I think I would like to take this opportunity to thank again to the Unilever, even HSBC, for the some funding. But then again, a subcommittee has been established to develop the term of reference of this establishment. But there's a lot of discussion on where will this permanent secretariat will be, this entity will be, this jurisdictional entity. So there's some discussion ongoing within the state in order to identify where best this can be positioned. And of course, there have been some discussion about who are the suitable candidates to be appointed as the manager or even assistant. Or maybe this may not be relevant, but I think it is very important that when we look at JE, or the jurisdiction entity, there has to be a group of professional people, because it is not only encompasses on forestry, oil palm per se, but also touches on environment, etc., social. And over the last 1 year, since 2017-18, there's a bit of delay in terms of its implementation. Forestry Department has come up with some initial funding in order to implement some of the first 5-year plan. And of course, with that, we had some progress in terms of coming up with a statewide carbon mapping. Also, thanks to RSPO and RSPO for the support, or even WWF, in terms of supporting the aerial survey. And we have come up with some HCV assessment, which has already been completed, but still in draft form. And why is it in draft form? Because we are coming up with Map 0, which is very important that this has to be agreed not only by the state government, but also by the various stakeholders. So there's a lot of processes that have to be followed through. Of course, the FPIC guideline, this is just to tick that has been completed, that we have come up with the FPIC guides. And there is a recent addition in terms of living landscape program, looking at landscape, mainly targeting on the mid-size growers, which is still in the initial stage. I think WWF Malaysia could be maybe expand further on this. And so, and we had implemented some of the smallholder pilot, which is also targeted on 4 districts, which is TTBK. This is a short form, Petelupit, Tongot, Beluran, and Kinabatangan. And it is also almost completed. There's a report on this, on the readiness project, on the readiness phase. And just to give you some updates, there's some indication of figures about how many smallholders there are in Sabah, this is obtained from, in fact, MTOB, of which about 221,000 hectares, of which are under smallholders. And to date, it's only 1.5% of these smallholders are certified, and MSPO is only 4.7%. This is only the smallholders. But if you look at the whole landscape of certified oil palm in Sabah, RSPO is coming up to 27%, and of course MSPO is 53.24%. And recognition, I will not expand on that, but I just like to highlight that it is very important that for any jurisdictional initiative, I think recognition is important. I think this is one of the factors, this is one that keep the initiative alive. I think we have been using that sort of recognition in order to push the agenda forward in the state of Sabah. And so where are we now in terms of achieving some of the goal? I think I was informed that the much awaited output, which is the coming up with the map 0 or map 8CV, the 8CV map. And we have completed, in a way, compiling all the useful information, HCV 1 to 4, yeah? And we have identified where are the best forests or best high conservation value forests that need to be protected. And one of the eventual aim is not only for oil palm, but eventually this map 0 could be used for any other crops, yeah? And it is also important that this map is to be adopted soonest. But of course, it has to go through the various, as I mentioned earlier, various stakeholder consultation, and definitely agreed by the state government as well, because this will be used in terms of coming up with a more statewide planning, statewide planning, with regard to, one example is forest management, in terms of integrated forest management plan. And this has been almost completed. I think we are now coming up with finalizing the documentation, which will soon be opened up for stakeholder consultation and also review by HCVRN and so forth. And of course, some of the key challenges is that there are some HCV5, for example, HCV6, something that can only be implemented on a stepwise approach in line with the case-by-case basis and project basis. Okay, and with regard to goal number 2, which is the free prior informed consent, we have come up with as I mentioned earlier, we have already come up with the guidelines, and in fact, I have just presented this, the guide, FPIC guide, to the new ministry, Ministry of Law and Native Affairs in Sabah, which is to convene a dialogue which will be happening, which will happen this 7th of November. This is to identify, where best this guide could be housed in. That's one example. But then again, I think the ministry has agreed. I think they realize that, acknowledge that they have a stake in it. I think, but then again, we may want to discuss at the state level where best this guide should be housed. And of course, this is something that needs to be field tested again, because this has been tested in some villages, but then I think it has to be tested on real, where there's some real cases on the ground. And the third goal that has been identified, which is strengthening the smallholder sustainability, which is uplift their livelihood. I think this is very important to Sabah. In fact, one of the justification to get this JE on the ground is to assist the smallholders. Because when we talk about smallholders, we are dealing with community. When we talk about community, it's really highly politicized. And the current government is very community-centric, so I think this is something that we need to demonstrate as soon as possible on how best the initiative could assist. So there's a lot of actions that need to be implemented on the ground as far as the smallholders are concerned. As of now, it is only concentrated on 4 districts only. Yeah? And there are quite a number of challenges, as mentioned earlier. Not all smallholders have heard about RSPO. And of course, there are several issues that has to be addressed at the state level, not only with regard to HCV or with regard to their livelihood, but also with regard to labor and so forth. And in conclusion, I would just like to sum up saying that we have started this journey since 2015, and we have already, in 2016, we have developed the 5-year plan. We have established the jurisdictional committee. There are some changes that will happen because some members have resigned from that. Yeah, but then again, I think it is very important that this committee is to be revived. Not to revive. I mean, members. The appropriate members is to be appointed to this committee, and we are looking at, and they have kickstarted one of the first 5-year action plan in 2007. There's a slight delay in implementation because of financial reason, and first 5-year, what's happened in 2018 is that we are glad that there is a reaffirmation of commitment by the current government on the initiative, and of course in support of the initiative to be implemented together with MSPO. So we have established a committee at the highest level to be chaired by the State Secretary to coordinate both initiatives in Sabah. And we treat MSPO as a very important step, and also as a stepwise in order to meet, for example, parts of the, for example, in terms of addressing the legality, at the same time, RSPO to meet the sustainability requirement. And of course, all this, we are moving towards 2025 with the hope that all the palm oil plantation in Sabah are either RSPO, MSPO. First MSPO, certified and RSPO by 2035. And we are looking at procurement, looking at something like supplying something like 6 million metric ton of CSPO. Hopefully, they will be fully functioning permanent secretariat. I think we are looking forward to further support on this. And of course, the adoption of statewide HCV, and there will be further follow-up work on land use change and the remediation, or even the compensatory, which we have not touched yet. I think this is something that will have to be looked into by the jurisdictional committee. And I think with that very brief implementation, that is just a very brief run-through on what is the status, and we definitely look forward, if we share with our idea, if we share with the belief that the initiative can work, I think we are ready to discuss further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred. The major steps on a 10-year undertaking, and very frank about some of the challenges that they're facing and will hopefully overcome. Our third speaker, Ms. Maria Alban, has probably traveled the longest way to be here. Mucho gusto, Maria, please go ahead and tell us the experience in Ecuador.
Thank you. I will speak from here, if I may. First of all, thank you. Thanks, RSPO, for the invitation. I would like to share with you all what Ecuador has been doing recently regarding this initiative of the jurisdictional certification. First of all, let me tell you that this initiative comes as part of the RED Plus action plan being implemented in Ecuador. And it shows a great deal of commitment from the government advancing into their commitments reducing deforestation. We have been systematically advancing, and when these triggers of deforestation were being identified, palm oil came as the fourth trigger of deforestation. So that is when the government decided to take action. And that coincided with some of the initiatives that the sector was taking at the time, and some big companies certificating under RSPO. So that is the origin of this commitment, and for us is a very important effort that has joined and come together, the Ministry of Environment and Agriculture, to undertake this initiative. The region we are starting with is the Amazon basin, the northern east part of Ecuador, and which accounts for less than 20% of Ecuadorian production. The important thing here is that the structure in Ecuador is slightly different. 91% of the sector the production comes from small producers. So the capacity to certify the big territory has a social and economic meaningful purpose for us. And this is what have actually worked together, the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Environment for the first time, drafting and planning together within the territory and undertaking national policies. There is some work behind. This started back in 2014 when this platform created by the Ministry of Agriculture with the palm oil sector was being discussed on how to foster productivity in Ecuador. Productivity in Ecuador is one of the lowest in the regions. The average is 13 tons per hectare, which is something that the government has been always worried about, and the sector as well. So undertaking those challenges, the sector come together and decided that one of the ways to undertake this was to increase productivity with best practices, and there is where RSPO came into place. So then 2015, an agroecological mapping came into place for the territory, for all Ecuador. And 2016, a big commitment from the Ministry of Agriculture and jointly with the Ministry of Environment, delivering a letter of request for undertaking this jurisdictional approach within the territory. In 2017, with the Red Plus National Action Plan being implemented, there was this call for the creation of a platform. This is the entity that has allowed us to undertake this action plan and to draft a roadmap for certification. And finally, we are in the process of implementing the action plan. We have a deadline, that is our deadline 2022. That is when the technical assistance project that advises the Ministry of Environment and Agriculture through UNDP is finalizing. So we have a deadline, and we're very, very committed to making it possible within this time frame. The region we are beginning with, the pilot, is in the upper right side, is that those red spots. This is the Amazon provinces of Sucumbíos and Orellana. Why are we starting then there is because deforestation was advancing in the Amazon basin, and our national Red Plus strategy prioritized that region. So we are beginning with that region and soon after undertaking the rest of the country, since this is a national initiative. So we are calling for a national certification, the whole territory under a jurisdictional approach. It's a very, as I said, less than 20%, 33.8 thousand hectares of production, and in a very sensitive ecosystem, which is the Amazon basin. So for us, it's important that this arrives to the goal to certify the producers, over 800 producers in the region. But what I would like to stress most is that this has been beyond the productivity and the economic goals. This has been a governance exercise. We have been building this platform, that intersectoral platform, across the different institutions from the public sector, private sector, associations, growers, mills, and being represented in this platform, as well as NGOs, conservation and social NGOs. That has been, for us, a new ground for planning. We have got together to undertake the task of drafting the action plan altogether. That is a picture of the exercise in 2018, which was very enriching, and for the first time exercising and the vision of sustainability as it should be in our country has been very enriching. So there is a great deal of commitment from all the sectors. The action plan is also the opportunity to invite other sectors, not only palm oil, but inviting and creating a model. And we operate under 10 principles that are the Global Compact principles that we undertook as ours. That cover human rights, labor rights, environment, sustainability, and zero deforestation, plus transparency and the fight against corruption, which for Ecuador has been a very important task. So we are also very empowered by the fact that we are building a new way of doing things altogether, joining sectors that before were not capable of working together. What we're doing in our action plan is prioritizing the important things. First of all, the high conservation areas and the studies, the HCVs and HCS studies are underway, are finalizing soon, and we are actually doing this for the whole territory, not only the area under certification, but the whole territory. So this has been very important for us. After we finalize this, we would have a roadmap, a very clear roadmap, how to process and advance with the rest of the regions that we have marked, the three other regions that where we have palm oil in Ecuador. So we are very happy that we are actually making progress towards not only this jurisdiction, but the rest of the areas that we have marked. We are also revising our ways and our institutional capacity to grant permits, environmental permits. In Ecuador, if you want to operate more than 50 hectares, you have to have an environmental permit, and that means you have to undertake an environmental impact assessment. So what we're doing here is using this opportunity to include new requisites, new things into that traditional vision of the AIA, the environmental impact assessment, and that is to include the ecosystem vision and services from the HCV study into what would be the monitoring for the permits, and that being made at a regional or at a scale, which is something very new. So we are revising the different kind of permits we need, and that will allow us to improve the quality of environmental permitting when we work in landscapes and territory. We're also using the opportunity to work with local governments and with municipalities and province governments to help them assess better their landscaping and the planning exercises that they have to that they currently have. We are introducing climate change, the vision, and also biodiversity and nature's rights. In Ecuador, in our constitution, we have this unique provision that is we grant nature rights. So we are using this opportunity as well to enhance the capacity of local governments to introduce this vision And we have legislation that supports this, so we are actually using this initiative to leverage the compliance of our own legislation and policies as well. We're also taking part in the jurisdictional approach working group, following up on the step-wise approach. We place ourselves between the second and third phase. We are happy to see that we have conditions to advance very quickly once the standard is adopted. We are also conducting a mapping for the FPIC, for the consultation. Ecuador has also participatory rights in the constitution and legislation. We don't think this will be a problem. On the contrary, this enhances the commitment that we have to increase participation rights, and we do comply to Principle 10 of Rio Declaration and some other new conventions that we have adopted recently in Latin America. We are as well designing our traceability system scheme. We have been discussing this with some cooperation and assistance with EU RED and some others, designing what should be and could be our traceability system. We see it's possible. We still have some work to do. We need to improve the quality of information we have from the region, but that's something that should be done in the next months. And of course, strengthening the capacity of local producers and growers, drafting what we call a capacity building program to increase their knowledge and awareness of RSPO commitments, as well as strengthening their organization system, creating more associations and creating a system that allows monitoring or auditing to be performed better. And finally, to design what this jurisdictional entity should be. We have this platform, it's called CISP. It's a very participatory platform, but we still need to provide it with some operational capacities. In this platform, the Ministry of Agriculture acts as the secretariat, coordinates, and we have a technical committee, which is the one that actually is overseeing the implementation of the plan. So we are trying to enforce its capacity in operation, and we think that despite the different changes of governments that sometimes affect these kind of initiatives, we see that this is I think a mature initiative that has lasted for the last 5 years, and now it's been consolidated through very specific tasks. And we look forward to the drafting or the adoption of this standard, so we can formally present our file and be able to start our work with international benchmarking and the links to the market that we think has the capacity. So there is a big deal of commitment from all of the parties there, and we are pursuing this certification with one thing in mind, and that is by 2022 we should have the Amazon provinces certified, and after that we'll go after and begin the rest with the rest of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much for sharing the experiences of Ecuador, the Latin America's second largest palm oil producer, and I think the world's 5th or 6th biggest producer. I think while you're literally from the other side of the world, from where we are, there are so many of the issues you talked about with the same language, deforestation, climate and carbon concerns. And I thought I wanted to turn to Glenn Davis. Glenn Davis is a senior advisor, WF, but he's actually here at the panel today as the co-chair of this working group within the RSPO. Glenn, besides your own comments, I was intrigued by some of the terms that arose from the 3 presenters, though working in different spaces. You know? Some of the common themes they talked about were smallholders, where RSPO has faced some question marks, whether it can really deal with smallholders. But more, it struck me that each of them were talking from a very government perspective, whether it is the local government, the state government, or the national government. And RSPO to me, has generally worked with the supply chain and the market and the producers. Would you share with us your views, and if you feel useful, help us think through that. Thank you, Glenn.
D2 ends. Thank you. So thank you, Chair, and a very important and useful introduction to the few comments I want to make. So RSPO cannot be expected to deliver on wildlife conservation, river systems, large-scale change that sustainable development requires. It is necessary and it is a global standard, but it's not sufficient. So that was the opening thoughts before the working group came together, that it is unreasonable to expect certification of a plantation area to be delivering wildlife outcomes across a district or a state or a country. It's unreasonable to expect that. And yet some of the narrative implies that, well, as long as we certify, all these other things are going to be sorted out. So the decision was to say, fine, let's have a jurisdictional perspective. And the fundamental change, as Chair's just indicated, is government. Jurisdiction means government. Okay, and I think at a number of sessions, various chairmen have said, how many people here are from government? I'm glad to say I think we got the majority right here now, so very much appreciate the presence of the government or their representatives here. But it's quite a message for us that this is new. This is not voluntary business to business. This now engages government, and particularly, I think it requires spatial planning. And you've heard from all of the speakers, and you've seen maps. How do we deal with leakage? How do we deal with bigger issues than can be expected to be delivered by producers on the ground? So that's the context, and I just want to say that I am speaking on behalf of a working group, all diligently working here. Wish to appreciate Sander van der Ende, co-chair, also the very hard-working RSPO Secretariat team, Dylan, Salahuddin, Javin, to whom we all report, not. The steps, or the timeline, was that the board endorsed the decision to establish a jurisdictional working group, March 2018. May 2018, we had our first meeting, and there's been 6 physical meetings and 2 teleconferences between now and then. Our next meeting, our most recent meeting was in September, where we reviewed the consultation. I'll come back to that in a moment. And our next meeting is planned for February. The outputs, a first draft guidelines of a certification standard document was made available to the public in June, and there was a public consultation for 60 days available online. There were 6 physical meetings around the world, 3 in Indonesia, 1 in Malaysia, Liberia, and Ecuador. And as you've heard, there have been 3 case studies which have helped us keep it real as we go into a completely new area for RSPO. So really to appreciate those case studies, the government commitment that has allowed them to proceed, and the wisdom that's coming from the ground to try and make the guidelines when they come out as realistic as possible. So this is the consultation. Sabah, Suriname, Jakarta, so Southeast Asia, Liberia, Africa, and Ecuador. Consumer Goods Forum teleconference and online feedback from 24. As I say, there will be a second round of consultation because a lot of the feedback we've incorporated into the document. Secretariat's very hard work appreciated on that. And there are some key challenges. So, as you would expect with going into completely new territory, some of the lessons we have is that if you want to, at scale, do HCV assessment, which might be a guide to everybody, and we've heard 2 examples of that, the HCV 5 and 6 really is hard to do remotely or at scale. You need to go down a layer, you need to do the consultations. So at a jurisdictional level, those are hard to deal with. So we're trying to consider what approaches would we take and what's the recommendations. And as an extension of that, the social criteria that really have emerged clearly from the 2018 P&C review. Again, hard to do at a jurisdictional level. We're trying to think, so what would be the principles that would guide us there? How big is the jurisdiction? How far along the supply chain do we go? What are the instruments we already have within the RSPO, and what are their limits? We're reviewing that. A jurisdiction will include RSPO members and non-members, and we've talked about a new entity, a jurisdictional entity, which will allow certification of a jurisdiction. How will that work? Will that be a government department, parastatal? Can it be entirely independent? How will it be funded, particularly before there's any trading? So these are the issues that we're going through. We've made some good progress, and as I say, the first consultation, there was good engagement, so I appreciate that. We are still work in progress. And I think probably better to stop there, but I think that maybe answered your initial question, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
And we play hard as well.
I'm not sure eating a cake is playing hard. But there are a number of questions. We are using the system, and I think I can do some justice to some of the questions. If I mangle your question, please feel free to put up a hand. I'll try to see you through the lights, and we'll get a microphone to you. If I could start with the first question, and this is about an emphasis that Pak Bupati made about the need for preferential buying, or he didn't use this word, but in a way, premium is another way some people put it. He saw that the market signals were critical to keep this self-sustaining. I wanted to ask him how optimistic he was. This is a question in the box. But additionally, to reach out to the other 2 as well and see, I don't remember it being so much emphasized in your presentations. And as we know, by and large, the existing certificates have not really often fetched that market signal. What are the prospects to the group putting this forward as a new approach? So, Pak, would you like to start? How optimistic are you about securing those preferential buying market signals? Are there early indications of interest since you started in 2015? We'll just give the translation a bit of time. Bisakah, Pak? Silakan.
Terima kasih. Dengan adanya black campaign dari beberapa oknum NGO yang mengatakan bahwa sawit Indonesia tidak ramah lingkungan, mengakibatkan, mungkin salah satunya mengakibatkan harga CPO dari Indonesia turun, dan berakibat kepada harga tanaman buah segar petani juga turun. Nah, di sini perlu saya jelaskan bahwa kami mengembangkan perkebunan kelapa sawit yang ramah lingkungan, kemudian berkelanjutan juga, ramah juga dengan lingkungan di sekitarnya, mempekerjakan masyarakat di sekitarnya, diberdayakan masyarakat di sekitarnya. Makanya melalui forum ini saya meminta agar pandangan yang mengatakan bahwa Indonesia ini tidak peduli dengan lingkungan, terutama perkebunan, itu adalah salah. 10% dari perizinan itu adalah HCP. Dan mereka tetap menjaga, dan satwa liar, dengan tumbuh-tumbuhan liar, hutan dan lain-lain yang ada di sekitar kebun mereka. Mungkin ada yang ingin ditambahkan, Pak Budi, silakan.
Boleh. Oke. Terima kasih Pak Bupati. Kita punya kebijakan di pemerintah daerah dengan membuat aturan seperti Pak Bupati sampaikan tadi terkait dengan kawasan HCP yang ada di perusahaan besar swasta. Kita sudah punya aturan terutama terkait kawasan yang di luar kawasan hutan, di istilahnya di Indonesia itu. Kita sudah tetapkan beberapa lokasi di dalamnya. Kemudian juga selain kegiatan yang terkait dengan HCP, sebenarnya di Kabupaten Seruyan itu punya tutupan lahan yang masih luas, sekitar 40%, yang di dalamnya itu sebenarnya kita memiliki taman nasional, kemudian hutan lindung, termasuk juga Head of Borneo ada di dalam Kabupaten Seruyan. Termasuk juga bagian dari menjaga hutan kami adalah beberapa perizinan hutan alam yang ada di Seruyan yang luasnya hampir mencapai 500.000 hektar. Nah ini juga bagian dari upaya Kabupaten Seruyan sebenarnya menjaga hutan. Nah itu mungkin tambahan dari kami. Ya, nah Taman Nasional Tanjung Puting yang bagian dari Seruyan itu luasnya sekitar 48% dari luas Taman Nasional Tanjung Puting yang ada di Kabupaten Seruyan. Nah ini sebenarnya bagian dari konsistensi dari Kabupaten Seruyan untuk menjaga hutan, termasuk juga bagaimana menjaga emisi rumah kaca yang terjadi di iklim global. Kami rasa demikian.
Thank you. Pak Bupati, Pak Budi, I think my question may be not clear or interpretation is slightly off. To put it simply, maaf, soalan saya not clear. So perhaps I try again. Are you optimistic that the price set by buyers for jurisdictional approach can be better to send the right market signal?
Insya Allah kami optimis dengan adanya yuridiksi ini, kami yakin harga CPO, harga TBS petani akan meningkat dengan sendirinya. Dan kami berkomitmen 5 tahun ke depan seluruh perkebunan kelapa sawit yang ada di Seruyan, baik yang koperasi yang dimiliki oleh masyarakat maupun oleh badan usaha, oleh korporasi, agar memiliki yurisdiksi dari SPO semuanya, seperti itu. Dan demikian harapan kami, harga SPO akan naik dan harga-harga produk lainnya juga akan meningkat, produk turunan dari kelapa sawit akan meningkat dengan sendirinya. Demikian, terima kasih.
Okay. Thank you, Pak. This is a question in the box, which I hope you don't mind. I asked the other two as well. Do you think this is a very important factor for your approach, given the extra effort that has been made for, in your case, a decade-long rollout plan?
Thank you, Prof. I think we entered this with the hope that we can, get market access. I'm not that optimistic. I'm not too sure about the others, but I'm not too optimistic about having a premium price or better price for that. But I think market access is very crucial. And I believe that Sabah has a good story to tell, yeah, on how that we look at landscape as a whole, that oil palm is, even though it's 1.6 million, it is already near saturation point, yeah. And then that we couple it with conservation efforts in Sabah. I think that we have a good story to tell. With that, maybe that can probably invite more and probably open up more doors for our CPO, CSP, palm oil. But we'll get the price. I'm not too sure about that. I think that's better answered by the market themselves. Yeah.
As you said, inshallah. Would you the other two like to comment about the importance of this? The difference between market access and premium is quite, I think, much more realistic, if you ask me. Please, go ahead if you have a comment.
I think I agree. The market probably does not have this in mind yet. But what I see is that this oil that will come from a jurisdiction is not a business as usual oil and could not get a business as usual price. We have to be able to reward the different efforts that are undertaken within the territories. Is a huge effort by different kind of stakeholders within these territories, and I think that is, for me, one of the most important commitments that the market should put out.
Clint, would you like to comment on this? Up to you. I mean, I think that it's an interesting challenge. I mean, so many times, for better or worse, palm oil is a commodity in the sense of volume, price, provenance, the process of the byproducts of its production are not fully factored into the pricing. So it is a remarkable challenge you all have taken on. If I could look at the next question, and this is one I must confess is clear, very clear to my heart or to my lungs, and this is about the fires and haze. Especially from the box, the question comes to Bupati of Surian. It says, congratulations on the achievements and on your great plan. In terms of fires and hotspots, how many fire incidents this year in your area, and any plans to reduce or stop the incidents? And since Central Kalimantan is just part of a very large island, if you have done well, please, tell us what other parts of Kalimantan should be doing on the fires and haze.
Oke, terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Pak.
Kami sudah mengambil langkah-langkah untuk melakukan pemadaman, baik itu menggunakan helikopter, waterbombing, ataupun menggunakan cara manual, menggunakan mobil pemadam, menggunakan mesin pemadam yang langsung ke air, membuat kanal-kanal juga sudah kami lakukan. Yang sulit dipadamkan ini adalah di daerah gambut, dan itu api kadang-kadang bisa muncul di tengah hutan, ini yang sulit. Sementara akses untuk menjangkau di daerah tersebut sulit, hanya bisa dilakukan melalui udara. Dan sampai saat ini itu menjadi prioritas kami untuk mengurangi terjadinya kebakaran, untuk menghindari terjadinya kebakaran. Dan kalaupun mengatakan kalau ada bahwa ini petani yang berpindah melakukan pembakaran, tapi itu salah besar. Karena petani ini kalaupun dia membakar itu sebatas dia lokalisir, umpamanya 1 hektar, dia jaga semuanya ini dengan mesin, dengan pompa air supaya ini tidak merembet kemana-mana. Nah, jadi itu kalau petani yang berladang, saya pastikan itu tidak terlalu membahayakan bagi kebakaran hutan dan lahan. Yang terjadi ini, hutan dan lahan terbakar di tengah hutan, tidak tahu pelakunya siapa. Ini yang sulit. Dan banyak perusahaan perkebunan mungkin ada juga, tapi ini menjadi tanggung jawab mereka. Perusahaan perkebunan besar menjadi tanggung jawab mereka untuk memadamkan di dalam radius 10 km di sekitar kebun mereka. Tapi kalau dia dengan sengaja membakar lahannya sendiri, itu rasanya impossible. Tidak mungkin ya. Lahan sendiri dibakar tidak mungkin. Kalaupun terjadi itu mungkin rembetan dari luar masuk ke dalam. Tapi perusahaan-perusahaan perkebunan pun sudah melakukan antisipasi juga. Pemadaman juga melalui menggunakan mobil ada, trek tangki ada, secara manual pun ada. Bahkan pada saat terjadi kebakaran di dalam kebun itu, mereka itu seluruh karyawan diliburkan untuk ikut memadamkan api di dalamnya. Dan ini sangat mengganggu memang. Di transportasi terganggu, kesehatan juga terganggu. Dan kami tetap berkomitmen untuk menghindari dan tidak akan terjadi kebakaran lagi di kemudian hari ke depannya. Akan kami lakukan perbaikan sistem pemadaman supaya lebih baik lagi ke depannya. Terima kasih.
Oke, terima kasih Pak. Maria,
Kemudian perlu saya tambahkan juga bahwa dana bagi hasil hutan itu oleh pemerintah pusat diberikan kewenangan untuk digunakan untuk melakukan pemadaman. Anggaran itu cukup besar dari dana hutan, dana bagi hasil hutan. Nah, pemerintah daerah diberi kewenangan untuk menggunakan anggaran tersebut untuk melakukan pemadaman antisipasi terhadap terjadinya kebakaran hutan dan lahan. Demikian.
thank you. Maria, if I could draw you out on this question, much of Amazonia this year has been on fire, mainly in Brazil. Your concession areas are the Ecuadorian part of Amazon. Do you find that the jurisdictional approach has helped preemptively prevent fires?
Well, in the part of the Amazon where Ecuador is located, it's a very humid, the tropical forest. So we don't get fires, and we don't, and actually, people do not clear with fires. But what I would say is that this initiative has fostered the capacity of the Ministry of Agriculture to begin or to start planning with other crops as well. So now we have the cocoa, coffee, and livestock strategies on sustainability and zero deforestation as well, taking into account the jurisdictional approach. So the jurisdictional approach is now being taken for other crops as well. So it's been used, and this has been very successful, setting a mark for the way now the Ministry of Agriculture is conducting the planning for the sectors. I would like to mention that Ecuador is the second country to have received financial resources from the Green Climate Fund, and recognizing the effort reducing deforestation in around 48% since 2014. So the government is committed to reducing deforestation, and now is trying to broaden the initiatives within other crops. So therefore, this palm oil initiative has been very useful.
Thank you. There are quite a number of questions, and there's not much time. If I may put two main questions to you, and then, of course, choose what you want to answer. You don't have to answer all of them. The questions relate really to the jurisdictional framework. Some of the questions relate to the role of governments. When governments take the lead, and a lot of questions are about the Sabah government for some reason, do you feel that you preempt the private sector, which has been the traditional engine for much of the RSPO's work? How do you include them, even as government will, in a way, lead? The second question, I think, relates particularly to the Bupati. If the jurisdiction of Surian is there, what do you do about cross-border? Of course, it relates also to Sabah, but particularly in a Bupati level, a provincial level, there will be, even though the province is much bigger than my country, it will still have some cross-border issues. So I guess those were some of the sort of the practicalities of the constitutional jurisdictional approach. The second question I would like to ask is, when a buyer approaches a certificate of an estate, there are various ways he can audit a particular estate. More easily, but when you get to the scale you're talking about, how does a buyer really, pardon the pun, buy into the jurisdictional approach? How is he assured that the whole jurisdiction will not have various problems? And if one or two estates on the jurisdiction have a problem, what does it mean for the whole jurisdictional sort of a stamp of approval? And the last question really, and again, I emphasize, pick the ones you like, or say whatever you want in closing. The last question relates in a way to the jurisdictional approach in terms of the ability to involve, I guess, different sectors. We are here, of course, at a palm oil conference. I respect that. But once you take on the jurisdictional approach, and many of these jurisdictions will have other industries, pulp and paper, mining, that also use the landscape, that also could deforest. Should the jurisdiction approach become multi-commodity, multi-sectoral? So again, please, those are rather long questions. I'm trying to do justice to the many things in the box. Please pick what you like and respond. And could I reverse the order, perhaps? Glyn, would you like to start us off? You're the one who's been co-chairing this whole working group. You've got the big picture.
So thank you. The links between business and government, and of course we all know how much business loves government getting involved in their affairs. So I think there is a clear wish for there to be a level playing field, and government regulation, including spatial planning, which helps to address leakage and other bad things, is accepted. The extent to which different jurisdictions do that, I will leave to the leaders there. But overall, I think government regulation and framework assist business if it's a level playing field, and everyone is required to achieve a similar standard. We haven't gone into the different sectors and how the implications are there, but obviously Maria has given one example of how it can have a positive outcome. And your second question, what was the middle question? Sorry.
Can't quite remember myself.
Okay.
But I think it was about the assurance to buyers. How do buyers buy into the jurisdictional approach?
Yeah, so I think so from the working group perspective, I think our overriding position is transparency is needed, including where things haven't gone so well. But we have not really had an opportunity to say, what kind of a framework would you need to put in place to show and reward those who are doing well, but to acknowledge when you're at this scale, there will be some bad stuff. So we're in the process of that, but really the first step is transparency through the spatial planning and so forth, so that buyers are clear what the situation is and then what criteria might be used. And it will have to be developed through the multi-stakeholder process, which RSPO has really brought to the jurisdictional approach. So it's not just government, it's understood that you have to use a multi-stakeholder process, which bringing RSPO lens has helped a lot.
Thank you, Glenn. Maria, would you like to pick one or more? Up to you.
I would like to comment on your first question, and that is, what is the role of governments within the RSPO world? And I think that sustainability is making us be innovative and change the way we have done things in the past. And that includes that we should be able to build strong partnerships with those we before thought weren't able. And that is, for me, the first thing to work out, how governments can be good partners in sustainability affairs with private sector. The second thing is that we have to recognize at the end of the road that we share the same goals. And therefore, we need to be able to build trust. As Glenn mentioned, private sector does not like governments meddling into their business. But I think that is a matter of two things. First is trust, but based on a very substantial issue, which is a very clear legal framework in the countries and transparency. I think if those conditions are worked, the capacity of coming together and building partnerships, strong partnerships, are easier. So sustainability, the sustainability challenge, and even more the climate change challenge, is making us think more creatively for the future. And I think that is something that we should be able to attend. What is the role that governments will have in this business world as we are sharing the same common goals?
Thank you very much, Maria. Fred, would you like to respond in terms of Sabah's experience?
Yeah, I think from the setup of the JE, I think having a multi-stakeholder, having 5 from private sectors, 5 from NGO, and 5 from state government, I think that's a very interesting composition. And, but then again, as raised by our previous speaker, I think the commitment from all is very crucial. And how to bring them on board, I think we must have a shared responsibility as well. Yeah? And having said that, you did mention about mechanism on how to address if there's any bad actors within that. I think this is something that we have yet to address. In fact, within the JE itself, the jurisdictional in Sabah, we have only established 3 working groups that looks at HCV, looks at FPIC, and looks at the smallholders. But there are 3 more other working groups. For example, the legal part, the governance, monitoring and evaluation, and of course the labor. These are the other 3 that has to be looked at as well. And of course, all this is working towards, moving towards creating a very transparent atmosphere, or even that it has to be transparent so that everybody knows what's happening. And I think issues, we must realize that issues are there, and then that has to be addressed. And very important that they realize that the issues cannot be addressed overnight. It has to be addressed in phased approach. And we definitely look for the cooperation from all members. I think that's, if I answer your 3 questions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred. Pak Bupati, would you like to answer 1 or more? Up to you.
Pendekatan yuridiksi ini meliputi seluruh elemen masyarakat, baik itu dari TNI, Polri, BPBD, demikian juga para perangkat desa, RT, pemerintah daerah juga dilibatkan di situ untuk bahu-membahu untuk mengantisipasi terjadinya kebakaran hutan dan lahan. Kemudian tata batas yang terkait dengan kabupaten lain, provinsi lain sudah ada kesepakatan kami. Jadi kami berkomitmen menjaga wilayah kami, yurisdiksi kami agar tidak terjadi kebakaran hutan dan lahan. Kalau terjadi harus kami antisipasi, harus kami padamkan bersama. Dan kebakaran ini terjadi karena fenomena alam. Nah, karena musim kemarau, mungkin terjadinya gesek antara kayu ini, maka timbullah api. Kalau dibakar yang sengaja tidak ada. Saya pastikan tidak ada. Ini gesek antara kayu, terjadi api, kemungkinan juga karena petir dan lain-lain bisa membuat api di hutan. Ini kan di tengah hutan yang tidak ada orang, tidak hutan belantara, tidak tiba-tiba ada api. Ini yang kesulitan pada saat pemadaman. Sekian, terima kasih.
Pak Bupati, besides the palm oil and the fires, would jurisdictional approach also be useful for other crops? I know you're mainly in palm oil, but are there other industry, other sector, which can use the jurisdictional approach in Soreang?
Saya sangat yakin bisa ada manfaatnya dengan pendekatan yurisdiksi terkait dengan lingkungan, terkait dengan perkebunan sawit berkelanjutan, yang ramah lingkungan juga. Kemudian Sudan ini kan wilayahnya 400.000 hektar, kurang lebih itu adalah perkebunan kelapa sawit, baik yang dimiliki oleh swasta maupun oleh masyarakat biasa, masyarakat kecil. Nah, dan demikian ketergantung dengan harga CPO, harga tanah dan bos negara ini sangat besar sekali. Makanya dengan adanya yurisdiksi ini saya berharap dan yakin harga CPO, harga TBS di tingkat petani akan meningkat dengan sendirinya. Dan petani akan sejahtera. Kalau dengan keadaan seperti ini, harga CPO masih rendah, kemudian di TPS juga otomatis rendah juga, daya beli ekonomi masyarakat menurun, ekonomi masyarakat juga sulit berkembang. Demikian.
Terima kasih banyak. Well, we'll hope that things will go according to plan. Whenever people try to do new things and take on big challenges, there will always be many questions, as they were in the box. And many of the questions were really quite tough questions. And I think that's good. I think that also none of these questions were things the panelists had not already considered. As I said at the start, I believe that this is a very important initiative. There are question marks about the scale of the effort for normal certification. There are question marks about the ability to help smallholders. There's a question mark of how private sector and governments work together. But while these questions may not be fully answered now, our panelists have shared with us, in some cases, 10 or more years of multi-stakeholder effort to get these new approaches to work, to really respond to the global challenges in ways which existing systems don't. So while they are in a new territory, I think that they deserve a very warm round of applause for sharing their challenges with us and telling us their progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our esteemed speakers. And ladies and gentlemen, just before we wrap things up, may we have your attention, please? A couple of announcements, important announcements. Well, travel via Lufthansa may be impacted due to industrial actions on the 7th and 8th of November 2019. So to our friendly delegates, if you're flying via Lufthansa, well, you're advised to check the status of your flights prior to departure. And not only that, ladies and gentlemen, for those who have been using our translation devices or interpret SIS, well, kindly return them to the counter, which is located at the back of the hall. And also, please remember your personal belongings and your valuables. Please do a double check, triple check, and make sure you have them with you. And also tomorrow, don't forget, 9 a.m., that's the time where we start our first session, or rather the session 4, right here at the ballroom. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for joining us, and that concludes our evening. Hope you have a great and a wonderful day ahead, or rather evening ahead of you. So please remember a couple of great things. One, your SIS receivers, please do return them to the counter. Please make sure you don't have any of your belongings, your personal belongings left behind. And tomorrow, please be in the hall by 9 a.m. as we will begin our session 4. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.